It's an undesirable characteristic, in my opinion.
To do it properly, you better have some control of your horse's mind.
Seems like everybody just wants to get right to the riding, you know. How many rides has your horse got, or you know, hey, let's just go on and get to the riding part. But I found over the years that this ground manners, the grooming, the tying, all that sort of thing, all that stuff is just as important as the riding. In fact, I'm not really interested in riding a horse anymore until I can get them to stand nice and quiet, to be groomed all over, have their feet picked up, and eat breakfast nice and quiet without digging holes and being food aggressive. I know you guys have probably seen horses that are food aggressive. It's an undesirable characteristic, in my opinion. So I really want them just to be nice and quiet, stand around, eat their breakfast, wait for the day's work to begin. Now, the riding's important, don't get me wrong, but everybody wants to just get right to the riding. I did too when I was younger. All I wanted to do was climb on their back and buck them out and hi-yah, hit the road with them. But I found over the years that just letting them stand nice and quiet in the morning, giving them some good ground manners, teaching them to tie nice and quiet while they're groomed and have their feet picked up, making sure that we address all that food aggression and all that sort of thing. All of that stuff just kind of goes into the pot. And if you don't have that, if you don't have these good ground manners, then in my opinion, you just don't have much of a horse. They just aren't very pleasant to be around. I want to get to the riding too, and those wet saddle blankets mean a lot, but the older I get, the more I realize that this is just as important. I like to see these clients though come and work their horses on the gate, because they all roll their eyes when I say we're going to go work on the gate. And I've got these two ladies that come out in particular that are now they're obsessed with the gate. They're like, I'm getting my horse good on this gate. You know?
Yeah. You put your horse in a spot like that and you see what you got.
That's right. It points out all the holes in your horse.
You can skate through a lot of things and never recognize, hey, there's a little hole here. There's a problem. Yeah, I need to go back and address it. But that gate, to do it properly, you better have some control of your horse's mind. Because if his mind is on the other side of that gate, his feet will not be right.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. I spend a lot of time on my horses right there, just because I can. Sorry, Patch. Just because I can use it to fix so many. You know, and I don't have to go out there and just specifically drill them. You know, on yielding the hindquarters or yielding the forequarters or whatever. I can go to the gate and I can spend 15 minutes right there and fix a whole bunch of it.
It carries over into so many other parts of that horse's life, and people don't recognize that. If you get something really, really, really good over here, you'll notice something that may seem to be totally unrelated gets better too.
Right.
You know, because to get something good over here, there's got to be some fundamentals that'll probably be the part of every exercise you do with that horse, especially mentally.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case with most of the problems that people have with them. You know, there's some hole way down deep in the foundation that was missed. It's something real simple.
You betcha.
But it shows up in a lot of different places.
And I tell you when that happens quite a bit is when you get an easy horse. A horse that you think's like, golly, this sucker, he's just been easy. He was born broke, saddled him up, rode him walk, trot, canter on the first couple days. And so you just go on with them. Yeah. And you miss, like on one that may be a little bit tougher, you're going to address some things that you might not address on those easy ones.
Yeah.
Well, down the road, that one that was tougher, he might be a little better horse. And that sucker that was easy, he might have something that comes back to haunt you that you should have got in the first few days or the first few weeks that you just skipped over because he was just so gentle.
Right.
You know, those gentle horses will come back to haunt you sometimes because there's maybe a little part of that foundation that you really didn't address, and one day he's going to need it.
You just take it for granted that it'll be there.
Yeah,
I've done it myself.
You betcha.
I mean, you know, and everybody I feel like that was probably the situation with that filly. She was so quiet and easy with everybody, and I probably took her for granted.
Right.
You know, and then all it was a simple little thing. I just shook that gate, and the next thing I knew, I mean, she squirted so fast and so hard, there's no way. Like I said, I reached for the horn and grabbed the cantle. I mean, it was instantaneous. There was nothing I could do about it.
You know, and it seems to hold true in so many different parts of life, even, things that are horse related, but being an athlete in any sport, the fundamentals is where the magic's at.
Yeah.
And it's what everybody wants to get through it so they can get to the hard stuff. They want to go do the fancy stuff. They want to put a turnaround on. They want to do this. They want that sucker to really stop hard, And so they start working on stuff that their horse is really not ready for yet.
Yeah.
And if they just take the long way around to make sure all the fundamentals are in place, all that other stuff come a whole lot easier down the road.
Some of it will just be there when you ask for it.
You betcha. That's right.
And I think that, you're right about, I think that anybody that's a high-end performer in anything that they do will tell you something like that.
Yeah.
That it's just the fundamentals. What do you work on every day?
Fundamentals. You bet. Horseshoeing, same way. Like there's some things you really need to grasp to be a horseshoer, but it's not rocket science. But you need to grasp it before you go on and start trying to, just shoe 100 horses a day.
Yeah.
You need to really get a strong foundation on the fundamentals of how to trim a foot properly. How does that foot work? How do the biomechanics of that horse's leg really work? Not what you heard or not what most people say, but truly be a student of the biomechanics of a horse's leg so that you can understand how you trim that horse's foot affects not what it looks like today, but 4 weeks from now. What's it going to look like 4 weeks from now or 5 weeks from now? So, the fundamentals of everything, whether it be horsemanship, horseshoeing, or basketball, you need to get those fundamentals in place before you move on, and you'll be glad you did. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, you can't force them to understand something if they don't have that good foundation of knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you just go backwards.
Yeah.
You just build resentment. You really do. In these horses especially. And it's just like kids too. If your kids doesn't, it's like, you remember old GB?
Oh yeah, I remember GB.
He says, if you take your boy outside, if you want him to learn how to play baseball and you take him outside, you throw 90-mile-an-hour fastballs at his head, he's going to want to go in the house and play with Barbies. And
it's very
100% true. You just don't, you can't do them that way. You've got to build it. Got a good client. She calls it scaffolding. She's a teacher and has been in the teaching industry for a long time. She said there's 2 ways to teach. You can scaffold or you can teach as needed. And as needed is kind of like on-the-job training, which we do a lot with these ranch horses, and it's a really good way for them to learn. But you've got to scaffold to some degree, because if they don't have the fundamentals, you're going to leave huge holes in them. And that's the problem with most of especially ranch horses out there. Most horses across the board, but ranch horses especially, guys just want to get a couple rides on them, and go to Doctor and Cattle or go to the Brandon or whatever.
Then the horse gets overfaced and they get in a wreck.
Yep.
Yeah, we've all done it.
That's
for sure.
That's what happened to me this summer.
You bet.
It's
you bet.
100% my fault.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Richard Boatwright. If you like what you've seen here, then you might consider becoming a member of B1 Horsemanship. You can sign up at b1horsemanship.com.